Hi guys, we're back on the farm for another weekly update. If you're new to the channel, this is Bountiful Blessings Farm, where I grew up. My family commercially farms here in Middle Tennessee. And this week we're going to be talking about incorporating regenerative growing practices into a market farm. And that can be challenging sometimes. There's a lot of really neat regenerative growing practices, but it's not always super conducive to a market farm where you're trying to make a living. And so my family has been experimenting with a ton of different practices over the years, and my dad's going to be showing some different methods that they've come up with for incorporating some cool regenerative practices into the commercial farm. So let's go find my dad. All right, for those that may be new to the channel, I'll just give a little bit of an introduction. This is my dad, John. He's been farming here in Middle Tennessee since 1998 and has learned a lot through the School of Hard Knocks and experimented with a lot of different farming practices. And so today our conversation is going to be kind of revolving around regenerative agriculture and how you've learned to kind of incorporate regenerative practices into a profitable production farm. So tell us about that aspect of the farm and how you've incorporated regenerative agriculture.
I would certainly not say that we're anywhere where we want to be. You know, there's a lot more we'd like to do, but I think the challenge with regenerative agriculture and looking at those principles is trying to balance efficiency and productivity with diversity. And, you know, regenerative agriculture is all about diversity above and below ground. So, you know, we're trying to earn a living doing this, and we can't always just, you know, do intercropping and everything like would be ideal, just because it is not very efficient. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we keep stabbing at it. We keep trying to do what we can, and it will show a few things we're doing today. But I wanted to start out by recommending a few books. I love books. I'm a book nerd, but The Living Soil Handbook by Jesse Frost has a lot of good regenerative principles, and I love his pragmatism. You know, he has three main sections to the book. Part one is disturb as little as possible. Number two, keep it covered as much as possible. And number three, keep it planted as much as possible. So those are his three main tenets of regenerative agriculture. And I appreciate that as much as possible idea, because again, if you're trying to make a living doing this, you can't do everything ideally. You have to make some compromises. This is another excellent book, The No-Till Organic Vegetable Farm. I think you sell these books, do you?
We sell a number of different books. I will have to go and check. If we don't, we can link to Amazon or some other place that sells them.
This is just a great book on, I mean, I put it up there with JM's The Market Gardener and Eliot Coleman, The New Organic Grower. And we've used both of those as textbooks, but this year we're actually using this one as our textbook.
For the internship program?
For the internship program. And it's just a lot of good information. But again, looking at these key points of regenerative agriculture, and depending on, you know, which book you read or who you talk to, there's some variation, but basically, you know, keeping living roots in the soil as much as possible, maximizing diversity, maximizing photosynthesis. What else? Well, some people get into the livestock, running livestock on your property to build diversity that way. You know, again, that's a little bit challenging to incorporate into a market garden. So anyway, they're good resources. One more I'll just mention here, green cover seeds. If you're not familiar with them, or I guess it's just greencover.com. They have a great variety of cover crop seed. And they also put out this soil health resource guide every year, which again just goes through all these soil health principles. Keep the soil covered. I don't think I mentioned
that. Was one in the.
Well, yeah, and that one, maximize or minimize soil disturbance. Yeah, so I think we covered most of them, but again, the challenge is to incorporate those into a active market garden. So we're going to give just a few simple examples of things we're trying this year. We're growing a lot of sunflowers this year, and we're actually double cropping because we don't have enough space. You know, we plant every week. And we started off planting half a 100-foot row, realized that was too many each week, so we've cut back to a third of a row. But anyway, trying to just think about how we could double crop with as little work as possible. You know, I'm just not willing to let the weeds take over, and cultivation is a big enough job that we can't spend all our time cultivating, so we're using the quick plant fabric. What we will do differently next year, I've decided for crops like this, there's no need to put the fabric in the aisles as well. And so we'll just either seed a cover crop in the aisles, which we'll show in a minute here, or else just let the weeds grow. And I found that you can pretty fast and easily weed eat the aisles. I'm able to do it and not mess the fabric up when because the fabric's coming down on the sides, and so you're not tapping on the edge, you're up a little bit. And anyway, that works. So we'll let some living roots go in the aisles. The only time I think we won't do that is with the sweet potatoes, any vining crops, because again, there's no way to keep the weeds out of that, and you end up with a mess.
So if it's a vining crop, you're always going to use fabric underneath the whole pathway.
Cover everything, and you get an incredible stand of sweet potatoes. But for more upright crops like your brassicas and the sunflowers, there's no need to do that. Okay. And again, just trying to give a little bit more roots in the ground and diversity.
Keeping the soil covered.
Keeping the soil covered and combining the quick plant fabric with natural covers.
Sure.
So what we did this morning is we cut back these 2 rows. These had the sunflowers on it. And we used, I just got to give a recommendation for these Fiskars pruners. They're so small and lightweight, and they seem cheap, because it's literally all plastic except for this one piece of metal. But they've got these gears that gives them a little more leverage. Mm-hmm. Super light, but
very light.
Super fast and easy to use. And, big stuff like this, just, so you can just go along like this and, cut. Wait, why am I doing this? This is not supposed to be cut yet. Uh-oh. Anyway. So we're leaving these, even though any marketable stuff has already been cut off. Mm-hmm.
So
but again, we're leaving them because it's living roots in the soil.
Okay.
Until we need this bed again.
So in previous videos, we've talked about, I don't remember the terms you used, but kind of like givers versus takers. I assume if you're leaving it in there for a while, you're viewing this as something that's giving more to the soil than it's taking, or would you say that?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I mean, honestly, I'm not familiar with sunflowers as far as what they're doing for the soil.
Okay.
Except I know that they're often used in cover crop mixes.
Okay.
So it must be, I mean, I think they have a pretty significant root system.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So it's putting a root system into the ground and you're leaving that, and then as that
but the point
decays,
is
it's
that,
benefiting the soil.
yeah, well, and as long as it's alive and photosynthesizing, it's sending root exudates into the soil and feeding the soil life.
Okay.
So, yeah, leaving that, but then when we do cut it, see this one still, we've got all the stumps here, but then you look here, and what we did is just pulled up the staples. You know, we put it down a nice layer of compost on this when we first put the fabric down, but just pulled up the staples and moved it, 3 inches or whatever. Here's the stump here.
Okay.
So
So you
just by moving it a little bit, we've got fresh soil that we can stick seeds in or transplants. We've still got the old root system in the soil that's going to be breaking down and providing organic matter. And, it's a step.
That's cool.
Step towards keeping those roots in the soil as long as possible and adding organic matter, while at the same time having the benefits of the quick plant fabric and not having the weeds take over.
Yeah.
There were some weeds in the holes. It
Sure.
took us 20 minutes to weed this.
Yeah.
And we're good to go for another round,
Yep.
hopefully.
Cool. Well, I
Maybe.
think that's a really neat tip.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. A step in the direction of more regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
So here's the corn that we were preparing for on last week's video. And again, you'll see we just left the pathways bare. And I wanted to seed a cover crop, and I may still do that, but this is a bit of a slope. And we've been having so many heavy downpours recently. I was a little nervous about just planting seeds, which all end up down at the bottom end down there. So at this point, the grass and stuff is just starting to grow, and we'll just let it go. And as long as it's not going to seed,
Yeah.
we're okay. And it's adding that diversity. It's adding something to hold the soil in place.
I remember as a kid, you always used to say 1 year's seeding is 7 years weeding. So we always try to make sure that the lawn and fields all the way around the farm are mowed and not going to seed, because that'll blow in from distances. And then, like pathways, it's one thing to let the weeds grow up a little bit, but just so long as they never go to seed.
Yeah, so that's the trick, and we'll see if we can stay on top of it. But the last planting of corn, I just went through once with a weed eater, and I think that's all I'll need to do is go through the patch once.
Yeah, I remember we used to also have like a little narrow push mower that worked pretty good.
Yeah, I think I'd be a little afraid with the quick plant fabric that I'd be cutting up the edges.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we're doing here. But now I got to show you the okra.
Okay.
We're on the way to the okra patch, but just wanted to mention this again. This is our rye and hairy vetch cover crop, the Eliot Coleman way, where we're actually letting it go to maturity. So the rye is all dead and falling over. The hairy vetch is still going, still attracting a lot of beneficials here.
It's neat to see all the bumblebees or
bumblebees, yeah. But as soon as that dies down, we will flail mow this, try to thresh the seed on some level, and then tarp it for a couple weeks to kill any weeds that are in there.
With a silage tarp?
Yeah, with a silage tarp, and then let the seed germinate again.
So pull the tarp off.
Pull the tarp off.
Or you have to do some watering at that point, probably?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Then the rye, this stuff, will be germinating
the rye
a second time.
and the vetch.
Okay.
So, I think that would be, we're last week of June. We probably won't flail mow this for another couple weeks, I would say. And then tarp it for a couple weeks. So that's beginning of August. And hopefully the rye will germinate, rye and vetch, and we'll have a great fall cover crop here. We'll keep you posted.
Yeah,
on
that'll
that.
be cool to see.
Yeah.
What's what here?
Well, you have to just let your eyes focus in here. But I'm pretty excited about this, actually. I mean, talk about lush and green. So we've got our okra in fabric. We've done 2 rows per bed. So we've got 2, 4, 6, and then we're still experimenting. This row just has, or this bed just has 1 row down the middle. But then on the empty beds, so we had 2 empty beds here, we ran 3 passes with the jang with cowpeas on the beds, and then I just sprinkled millet on the beds and in the aisles, and I sprinkled some cowpeas in the aisles as well. And with all the rain we've had, I mean, this is incredibly lush.
Beautiful.
But the thing that I'm so excited about is that, there's no weeds, virtually no weeds in the okra, so we don't have to worry about that. But we're getting this incredibly lush cover crop in the aisles and the empty beds.
And then as you start to harvest, most of that's probably going to get stamped down.
Well,
from just walking
probably
on it?
not the actual beds, but certainly the aisles. Yeah.
Okay. And then that'll just help it start to
we'll
decompose.
just, keep it from taking over by just harvesting.
Yeah.
And, the okra at this point isn't much taller than the cowpeas, but it certainly will get taller.
Yeah.
And
I think this is a really cool example of trying to balance, the needs of a market farm, which is like not spending a ton of time weeding, being able to effectively, harvest and all that, but also incorporating some cool regenerative processes. So
yeah,
I'm just excited to see okra. And this is, people think I'm crazy, but I love raw okra. So I think we need to see if there's anybody else in the comments that likes raw okra. You can't get it I think people get turned off from okra because they get these long spears. But man, if you get one of these little shoots, it's delicious and it's amazing raw.
You're not going to tell what you and your siblings used to do with it, are you?
It's a little embarrassing, but you can't chew it for too long, because if you chew it for too long, it just gets really, really slimy. So as kids, we used to get the little green shoots of okra, fill our mouths full of it, and just chew it and chew it and chew it until it was the slimiest mess of stuff, and then see who could droop it out of their mouth the farthest and still suck it back up.
That was not endorsed by their parents.
Yeah. When you grow up on a farm, you got to get creative.
This isn't exactly regenerative agriculture per se, but just talking about diversity. We've been experimenting with different different fruiting plants, because fruit is always big at the market, or everybody loves fruit. So we're really excited about this variety of blackberry. It's called Prime Arc Freedom. It's from University of Arkansas. They've been the big breeders of blackberries, but it's thornless and it's primocane bearing, which means it bears on the first year canes. So behind we've got, and it's a mess back there, but we've got a floricane bearing variety that struggles every year. I don't know if it's just our location or what, but the floricanes never are healthy. But the primocanes, you know, these are very healthy.
Yeah, and they produce a ton.
You just cut them to the ground in the wintertime, which makes it super easy. Just cut them totally down to the ground, and then they come back. And what you're supposed to do is pinch the tops off when they're about 15 inches tall. And then you're supposed to pinch them a second time when they're about 30 inches tall.
So the pinching it, and then after you pinch it, it's going to put out two more shoots?
It's going to branch.
And then you get up taller, and then you pinch it again, and then it goes to like, what, at that point, you're like 4 shoots?
Yeah.
Or more, maybe?
So the point is they bear at the ends of the branches.
So the more branches you can stimulate, the better.
The more your fruits you're going to have.
Okay.
And so, you know, I was pretty faithful at the first pinching at 15 inches, but then it gets a little confusing after that, and I wasn't really as faithful with it. So some of these may have gotten double pinched, and the rest are probably just single pinched, but you know, they're really starting to come on. Again, this is the end of June.
Yeah, you already, over here I see one that's already red.
And so they will be bearing from now till frost. You know, they'll bear on, well, any that you didn't pinch, they'll bear on the tips, and then they'll start bearing from the branches that came, the new shoots that come off. So highly recommend this variety. It can produce huge. Massive. I mean, is that an exaggeration?
No, I have some pictures of them from last year, and they just take up the whole palm of your hand, just about.
And they do these double berries many times.
They're really impressive and super tasty. So, yeah, I just planted some this year. They'll produce some fruit the first year, but they'll produce a lot more on the second year. So, and you have also some other stuff. We should just show this while we're here.
Yeah,
muscadines.
The muscadines, we're not giving up because we love muscadines, but it's been a challenge because we're kind of at the northern end of their, you know, what they can handle as far as cold, and so we've had them freeze back to the ground multiple times.
Yeah, you got a lot of empty spots.
We've lost a number of them. But those that are still here, we're excited. We've got a lot of muscadines on them.
And I think it's really cool, kind of from a regenerative ecosystem. You know, I saw, like, I think there's a bird that's nesting over there in the muscadine, which is really cool to see. As far as other fruiting stuff, you have blueberries, and then been experimenting with figs and pears and stuff like that.
Figs, pears, we've got some elderberries up there.
Oh, cool.
And persimmons, that's the other one where we haven't had real good success, but we're not giving up, is grafted, Asian persimmons grafted onto native rootstock.
Yeah.
To give that vigor of the native persimmons, but man, there's nothing quite like a good Asian persimmon.
I can agree with you on that. Well, thanks for showing us those tips. It's cool to see. Do you have any closing thoughts on incorporating regenerative practices into a commercial operation?
Well, I think experiment, read the books, learn from others, and, you know, I think any steps in that direction are positive. And so you know, anything you can do that's more than you have been doing is a step in the right direction.
Sure. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and until next time, happy growing.